What if everything you thought you knew about breathing was actually keeping you locked in the same repetitive patterns, unable to break free? There's research from the HeartMath Institute that reveals exactly why all your personal development attempts haven't created the shifts you've been seeking. The instant you grasp what's genuinely occurring with every single breath you draw in and release, you'll see that breathing goes far beyond basic survival. It's actually about awakening to your capacity as someone who actively creates their reality. Here's what makes this research so fascinating and honestly kind of mind-blowing. Each human being takes roughly 23,000 breaths throughout a single day. Yet here's the thing, 99.9% of those breaths happen without any conscious awareness whatsoever. You're breathing while you scroll through your phone, sitting stuck in heavy traffic, lying there at 3:00 the morning, replaying conversations in your head, racing from one commitment to the next, drowning in overwhelm. And yet, you never stop to ask yourself why your external world keeps reflecting back this internal chaos you're experiencing. You continue attempting to rearrange everything outside of you, never understanding that you're actually broadcasting a very specific energetic pattern through your breathing rhythm to every single person within an 8-foot radius around you. But there's something even more extraordinary happening beneath the surface that most people go their entire lives without discovering. Your breathing pattern is literally encoding information directly into the quantum field surrounding you. Think about it like this. You're essentially writing on the very fabric of reality itself with each breath you take in and let out. When you breathe from a place of anxiety, you're genuinely writing anxiety into the field that exists around you. When you breathe from a place of peace, you're inscribing peace into that exact same field. The quantum field makes no distinction whatsoever between what's happening inside you and what's happening outside you. It just responds to whatever information you're consistently encoding through the way you breathe. This encoding process occurs at frequencies that go way beyond what your thinking mind could ever consciously detect. We're talking about incredibly subtle electromagnetic emissions that happen at your cellular level every single time you take a breath. Research from Dr. Fritz Albert Popp on biophotons demonstrates that every cell in your entire body emits light. It emits coherent, organized light when you're in a state of harmony, and chaotic, scattered light when you're in disharmony. Your breathing pattern directly shapes this cellular light emission, which means you're literally painting with light in every single moment you exist. The ancient ascended masters understood this principle and referred to it as breathing the light body into existence. They knew that conscious breathing could genuinely restructure the energetic template of your physical body, healing diseases that appeared completely incurable and extending life way beyond what we consider normal human limits. They weren't engaging in wishful thinking or fantasy. They were applying exact knowledge about how consciousness interfaces directly with matter through the vehicle of breath. This is exactly why affirmations and vision boards fail for the vast majority of people. But there's a quantum mechanism that shifts everything. When you discover that each breath generates an electromagnetic field that either builds your desired reality or tears it down, you can stop fighting against your circumstances and start encoding your reality from the level of consciousness itself. I'm going to show you the exact 4-stage observer breath method that transforms you from being someone life happens to into someone who consciously architects their life. Plus, you'll discover the quantum gap technique that activates this transformation in just 0.3 seconds, making you the stable center point around which reality reorganizes itself instead of being thrown around by every circumstance. Each unconscious breath represents a wasted opportunity to literally reshape your existence. Most people are squandering 23,000 opportunities every single day. Your entrance into this physical dimension didn't start with thinking. It started with breathing. Your very first act on this earth wasn't forming thoughts, speaking words, or even making. Yet, somewhere along the path of your development, you learned to breathe like a machine, rather than the conscious being you truly are. You shifted from soul-centered breathing to survival-centered breathing. Right now, in this very moment, become aware of how you're breathing. Where does your breath originate from? For the vast majority of people, it's probably rapid, shallow, and concentrated in the upper region of your chest. This is what I call automated breathing, the kind that keeps your body functioning while leaving your spirit completely undernourished. Ancient keepers of wisdom understood something our modern world has entirely forgotten. From the Sanskrit understanding of prana to the Hebrew concept of ruach, civilizations spanning all of history recognized breath as infinitely more than just biological necessity. They knew it served as the sacred connector between what we can see and what remains invisible, between matter and quantum potential, between human consciousness and divine consciousness. In these wisdom traditions, intentional breathing wasn't merely a technique you practiced, it was an actual portal into different dimensions of reality. Egyptian mystery schools taught that every breath carried the capacity to activate distinct chambers of consciousness within you. Ancient yogis realized that breath could transform not just your internal experience, but the actual structure of reality surrounding your physical body. They weren't speaking in metaphors or poetry. They comprehended that conscious breathing involves much more than simply moving oxygen through your respiratory system. You're circulating energy through existence itself, through the living field of consciousness that connects everything. Consider this fundamental truth. Every emotion you've ever experienced, every choice you've ever made, every instant of clarity or confusion has been accompanied by a very specific breathing rhythm. During moments of anxiety, your breath becomes rapid and superficial. In moments of genuine peace, it naturally becomes deeper and slower. Your breath doesn't just reflect your condition or state, it actually creates your condition and state. The distinction between automated breathing and conscious breathing comes down to awareness. Automated breathing happens to you, it's something you're subjected to. Conscious breathing flows through you with you as an active, aware participant in the ongoing dialogue between your inner landscape and the quantum field surrounding you. When you begin breathing with genuine purpose, with full presence, with reverence for this fundamental act that connects you to life force itself, something absolutely extraordinary unfolds. You stop being a passive receiver of whatever reality shows up and transform into an active collaborator in actually designing it. This is where breathing becomes truly sacred. Every breath from this place no longer merely sustains your physical life, it sustains your alignment with who you really are. What I'm about to share with you will completely dissolve the illusion that has been keeping you confined. You believe you control your thoughts, but you're actually imprisoned by them. Most human beings spend their entire existence believing they are their mental commentary, that voice in their head. You wake up each morning and immediately the internal dialogue starts up. What needs to get done today? I'm so behind schedule. I wonder what they thought about that conversation yesterday. Maybe I should check my phone real quick. You assume this mental voice represents your actual identity, your true self. But what if this assumption is completely and utterly incorrect? At this exact moment, while you're engaging with these words right here, I invite you to try something really fundamental. Notice your breathing pattern again. This time, don't try to change it or modify it in any way. Just observe it. Feel the air flowing through your nostrils, expanding your lungs, then gently releasing back out. As this occurs, something truly remarkable is happening right now. You're becoming the witness of your breath rather than just being the one breathing. You're stepping into a different role entirely. Now, while you're observing your breath, notice your mind's activity. It might be commenting on what's happening. This seems kind of pointless. I'm probably doing this incorrectly. How much longer is this going to take? Here's the profound revelation that changes everything. If you can perceive those thoughts, if you can observe them arising and dissolving like waves, then you cannot be those thoughts. You are the. Imagine yourself sitting beside a flowing river. Your thoughts represent the water moving past you. Sometimes the current flows gently and peacefully. Sometimes it rushes turbulently and chaotically. But you, your authentic self, remain seated on the river bank, observing everything pass by. You are not the river itself. You are the consciousness that perceives the river flowing. Ancient wisdom traditions use the metaphor of sky and clouds to point to the same truth. Your thoughts resemble clouds drifting across the vast expanse of your awareness. Some clouds appear dark and stormy, representing worry, fear, uncertainty. Others seem light and fluffy, representing joy, enthusiasm, hope. But observe this carefully and really let it sink in. The sky itself remains completely undisturbed by any clouds whatsoever. It stays constant, spacious, unchanged regardless of whether the weather is clear or stormy. This observer consciousness represents your authentic nature, the part of you that's remained unchanged since childhood, the part that will remain unchanged until your very final breath. It's the witness, the awareness, the silent presence that has observed your entire life experience unfold from beginning to right now. But here's where this understanding gets even more profound and powerful. The observer isn't just passively watching your thoughts and emotions. It's actually the creative force behind your reality itself. Every major spiritual tradition across human history has pointed to this truth in different ways, using different language. The Hindus called it Sakshi, the witness consciousness. The Buddhists spoke of Buddha nature, the unchanging awareness underneath all phenomena. The Christian mystics referred to it as the Christ consciousness within every being. All of these traditions were pointing to the exact same fundamental recognition. You are not your temporary experiences. You are the eternal awareness that's experiencing them. When you truly grasp this, not just intellectually but experientially, everything changes about how you approach life's challenges and circumstances. Instead of asking yourself, how can I fix this problem, you begin asking, what is this experience trying to show me? Instead of resisting difficult emotions and pushing them away, you become genuinely curious about them. Instead of trying desperately to control outcomes, you become fascinated by the creative intelligence that's orchestrating your experiences behind the scenes. In the comments right now, drop one word that captures the energy you're choosing to carry forward from this moment. Maybe it's alignment, maybe it's ease, maybe it's power, maybe it's something uniquely yours. Let that word be a small but profound declaration, a signal like a quantum seed you plant not just in this space but in the quantum field itself. This shift from being a participant to becoming an observer to ultimately becoming a conscious creator is what the ancient alchemists called the great work. They weren't trying to turn lead into gold in some literal laboratory with chemicals and fire. They were transforming the lead of unconscious reactivity into the gold of conscious response. The laboratory was their own consciousness, and the breath was their primary tool of transformation, their most powerful instrument. Modern neuroscience is now validating what these ancient traditions always knew deep in their bones. When you observe your thoughts without judgment, you actually change the neural pathways in your brain in measurable ways. Research from Dr. Joe Dispenza shows that just 7 minutes of conscious observation can begin rewiring patterns that have been running for decades. Your brain literally starts creating new neural networks that support the observer rather than the reactor, building new circuitry for conscious awareness. But the observer state isn't just about personal transformation for yourself alone. It's about remembering your role as a conscious participant in the universe's creative process, in the ongoing unfolding of reality. When you're completely identified with your thoughts and emotions, you're like an actor who has totally forgotten they're in a play, completely lost in the drama playing out. But when you awaken to the observer within you, you remember you're not just the actor on stage, you're also the director, the writer, and the audience all at once. You're playing multiple roles simultaneously. This is why conscious breathing is so incredibly powerful in practice. Every breath from the observer state is like sending a crystal clear signal to the universe. I remember who I am now. I'm ready to consciously participate in this creative dance of existence. The universe responds to this signal by beginning to organize circumstances that match your newfound clarity and coherence, bringing opportunities and synchronicities that your ego mind, that voice of endless commentary running through your head, wants you believing it's in complete control. It constructs these elaborate narratives about your identity, your obligations, what other people think of you. It exists in constant commentary about past events and anxiety about future possibilities that might occur. But the observer exists only in this moment, in the eternal now where genuine power actually resides. When you begin identifying more with the observer and less with mental chatter, something profound transforms in your experience. You stop being reactive to everything that happens and become responsive instead. Instead of being overwhelmed by every emotion or thought that arises, you can observe their emergence, acknowledge them fully, and consciously choose your response. This is where authentic freedom begins to dawn. Breath becomes your anchor to this observer consciousness, your way back home. Each time you return your attention to your breathing, you're returning home to your true self. You're stepping away from the drama of thoughts into the peace of pure awareness that's always available underneath. This transcends spiritual philosophy or abstract concepts. This is quantum mechanics in actual practice, applied consciousness. The observer effect in quantum physics demonstrates that conscious observation literally transforms reality at the most fundamental level. When you become the conscious observer of your inner world, you gain genuine power to influence and shape your outer world. The two worlds are intimately connected, inseparable. Have you ever experienced those moments when time seemed to slow down dramatically? Perhaps during a crisis situation or in an embrace with someone you deeply love. Concealed in the space between your breaths exists a 0.3-second window where you can literally rewire your reality at the quantum level. Yet 99% of people never discover how to access this window consciously. Those time-slowing moments you just recalled in your memory weren't random coincidences or flukes. They were glimpses of what becomes possible when you slip into the space between thoughts, between heartbeats, between breaths themselves. In that suspended instant, you touch something timeless, something beyond ordinary temporal flow. You encountered what I call the quantum gap, the space where all possibilities exist simultaneously. Take a breath right now, but this time pay attention not only to the inhalation and exhalation, but specifically to what occurs between them. There's an instant, brief yet absolutely profound, where everything pauses completely. Your lungs are filled with air, yet you haven't begun exhaling. Then, at the completion of your exhale, there's another pause before the next inhalation begins. These aren't vacant or empty spaces. They're sacred gateways into different dimensions of consciousness. Ancient Egyptian initiates knew this secret intimately. In the mystery schools along the Nile River, seeking students learned to enter these gaps with their full consciousness. They called it resting in the silence of Ra, the space where the sun god paused between creation breaths. These weren't merely breathing practices or exercises. They were actual training in accessing the field of infinite potential that exists in every moment of stillness, every pause between states. Egyptians understood what quantum physics now validates through scientific measurement. In the space between one state and another, literally anything can emerge. It's like the pause between musical notes in a song. Without the silence, there would be no rhythm, no beauty, only continuous noise. Your breath creates the same sacred rhythm in your existence, moment by moment. In this quantum gap, something absolutely extraordinary occurs. Your usual mental commentary completely disappears. The constant stream of I should, I must, I need becomes quiet and still. In that silence, pure intention can crystallize. Not the desperate wanting of ego consciousness, but the clear knowing of soul consciousness. Here, your deepest desires stop being mere wishes and become actual instructions to the field itself. Consider this gap as creation's womb, the space where everything is born. Just as a child develops in the dark, quiet space of the mother's womb, unseen and protected, your dreams and intentions require this sacred darkness to take form properly. Ancient mystics called it the needle's eye, that impossibly narrow opening through which infinite possibilities must pass to become manifest reality. Most people rush right past these moments without ever noticing. It's not about breath retention techniques or forcing anything whatsoever. It's about learning genuine presence with your being's natural rhythm. In that presence, you're touching the place where intention meets infinite possibility, where consciousness touches the field of all potential outcomes. In the quantum gap, you're not attempting to control the field through force or manipulation. You're communing with it, dancing with it, co-creating with it. But accessing this quantum gap is only the beginning of the journey. Something even deeper awaits your awakening. Your body has been transmitting signals for years that you've been completely overlooking. Those ignored messages are literally obstructing your manifestation abilities, blocking your creative power. That deeper awakening I mentioned isn't discovered by reaching higher or thinking more sophisticated thoughts. It's found by journeying inward, by descending from the mental realm into the sacred territory of your physical form. Just as ancient civilizations constructed magnificent temples to house the divine presence, you too must build an inner sanctuary, not with stone and mortar, but with breath and awareness, with conscious presence. Consider the world's great temples throughout history. Egypt's pyramids, Europe's cathedrals, the sacred spaces where people have gathered for thousands of years to touch something greater than themselves. These weren't built randomly or carelessly. Every pillar was positioned with precise intention. Every chamber designed to channel and amplify divine energy flowing through. Your body is identical in this way. It's already a temple, a sacred structure, but most of us have never learned to inhabit it consciously, to truly live inside it. Ancient Egyptians grasped this deeply and completely. They mapped the human body as a living temple with energy centers corresponding to different chambers of consciousness. They knew that breath was the key unlocking each room, revealing not just the divine presence within, but also the stories, traumas, and patterns stored in the body's deep wisdom. If this understanding is resonating with something inside you, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps this frequency reach others who are ready for this transformation, who are prepared to remember. As you begin breathing more consciously, you might notice something really intriguing happening in your body. Certain body areas may feel tight, constricted, or somehow inaccessible when you bring your attention there. Your shoulders might carry the weight of responsibilities you've been bearing for years without realizing it. Your chest might feel armored, protecting a heart that learned to close itself after experiencing betrayal. Your stomach might hold anxiety knots about the future, about what might happen. Your throat might feel restricted from words you never permitted yourself to speak out loud. I'm genuinely curious, as you're exploring this conscious breathing right now in this moment, what are you noticing in your body? Share in the comments what sensations or insights are arising for you as you tune in. These aren't merely physical sensations you're feeling. They're biographical, they tell your life story. Your body has been recording your entire life, storing the emotional residue of every experience in its tissues and cells. That chest tightness might be holding grief you never fully processed or allowed yourself to feel. The shoulder tension could be carrying burdens that were never actually yours to bear in the first place. But here's the beautiful aspect of conscious breathing that makes it so transformative. It doesn't just reveal these patterns to your awareness, it helps dissolve them, it helps release them. Each conscious breath is like gentle renovation work on your inner temple, clearing old debris, opening blocked pathways, restoring the natural energy flow that wants to move through you freely. What happens during this clearing process is truly remarkable and sometimes surprising. As you breathe consciously into areas of tension or holding, you're not just releasing physical knots in your muscles, you're actually liberating trapped memories, emotions, and even inherited patterns that have been stored in your cellular matrix, in your very DNA. Your DNA itself carries information from your ancestors, including their traumas, their fears, and their limitations. Conscious breathing can actually help clear these inherited patterns, freeing you from cycles that may have been running in your family line for generations upon generations. Scientists are now discovering that trauma creates specific breathing patterns that get passed down through something called epigenetic inheritance. If your grandmother experienced deep fear and never fully processed it, that fear pattern, including its corresponding breathing signature, can show up in your nervous system even if you've never experienced that trauma yourself directly. This is why some people have anxiety about things they've never actually encountered in their own lives. But here's the empowering truth that changes everything. Just as these patterns can be inherited and passed down, they can also be transformed and healed. When you consistently breathe from coherent states, you're not just healing your own nervous system, you're actually healing the ancestral line itself. Your conscious breathing sends healing frequencies backward through time to your ancestors and forward through time to future generations not yet born. You become a healing bridge across time itself, a transformer of lineage patterns. Imagine slowly descending through your inner temple's floors with each intentional breath. As you breathe into your chest area, you're visiting the heart chamber, the seat of love, connection, and emotional wisdom. As your breath moves into your belly region, you're entering the power and intuition chamber where your deepest knowing resides, where gut feelings originate. With each breath, you're not just observing these spaces passively. You're purifying them, blessing them, reclaiming them as your own. Egyptians built their pyramids to align with celestial energies, creating structures that could channel cosmic forces into earthly form, bringing heaven to earth. Through conscious breathing, you're doing the exact same thing with your body. You're aligning your inner architecture with the higher frequencies of love, peace, and creative power that want to flow through you constantly. This isn't about perfecting your body or forcing it to be different than it is. It's about learning to inhabit it fully, to honor the intelligence that's been guiding you all along, and to clear the energetic blocks that have been preventing your fullest expression of who you are. Once your inner temple is constructed and cleared, something truly remarkable begins happening to everything around you in your external environment. Scientific research has proven your breath creates an electromagnetic field extending 8 feet from your body in all directions, meaning you're unconsciously influencing everyone around you right now in this very moment. That remarkable occurrence around you isn't just poetic metaphor or beautiful language. It's measurable science that we can actually test. HeartMath Institute research demonstrates that your heart generates an electromagnetic field extending far beyond your physical body's boundaries. This field changes dramatically based on your breathing pattern from moment to moment. When your breathing is chaotic, shallow, or stressed, your field broadcasts that chaos to everyone within its reach, affecting their nervous systems. But when your breathing becomes coherent, deep, and intentional, your field becomes a source of harmony that others can actually sense on a subconscious level, even if they're not consciously aware of it. Think of your breath field like a still lake surface, reflecting everything around it. When you breathe from anxiety or rushing thoughts, you're like someone frantically splashing in the water, creating waves and ripples that disturb everything around you, creating chaos. But when you breathe from that peaceful center we've been cultivating together, you become like the mountain perfectly reflected on the lake's calm surface, still, grounded, and magnetically peaceful to everyone nearby. Have you ever entered a room and immediately felt either agitated or calm without anyone speaking a single word? Have you noticed how certain people seem to carry peace wherever they go, while others seem to bring chaos and disruption? This isn't your imagination playing tricks. It's the breath field in action, operating beneath conscious awareness. We are constantly transmitting our internal state through our breathing's rhythm and quality. Others are receiving these signals, whether they realize it consciously or not, whether they can articulate it or not. Children are especially sensitive to these fields because they haven't learned to override their natural intuition yet. They haven't been conditioned to ignore their body's wisdom. So they respond immediately to the energy we are broadcasting through our breath. When a parent breathes with stress and anxiety, children often become restless or clingy without understanding why they are feeling that way. But when that same parent takes a few conscious breaths and settles into their center, the child often calms naturally, as if by magic, mirroring the parent's shift. This field effect extends to every single interaction you have throughout your day. When you breathe consciously before difficult conversations, you're not just preparing yourself mentally. You're creating an energetic container that can hold whatever needs to emerge during that conversation. When you walk into your workplace centered in your breath, you're subtly influencing the entire atmosphere around you, making it easier for creativity and collaboration to flow naturally. But there's an even deeper layer to this field effect that most people never discover in their lifetime. Your breath field doesn't just influence the people around you. It influences the very fabric of space-time itself, the fundamental structure of reality. This isn't mystical speculation or wishful thinking. It's cutting-edge physics being researched right now. The work of scientists like Nassim Haramein demonstrates that consciousness and space-time are intimately connected at the quantum level, inseparable from each other. When you breathe from a coherent state, you're actually creating what physicists call torsion fields, spiraling energy patterns that can influence the structure of reality itself at the quantum level. These fields can affect probability distributions, making certain outcomes more likely while making others less likely. This is why people who meditate regularly often report increased synchronicities and seemingly miraculous coincidences in their lives. They're literally changing probability fields. Think about the implications of this for a moment. Your breath isn't just affecting your health or your mood or your stress levels. It's literally participating in the creation of your reality at the most fundamental level possible. Every coherent breath you take is like casting a vote for the kind of reality you want to experience. Every unconscious breath is like a vote for more of the same unconscious patterns continuing. The Tibetan masters understood this deeply and taught it carefully. They developed elaborate breathing practices called lung, which literally means wind horse in their language. They knew that conscious breathing could ride the winds of karma, actually changing the trajectory of events that seemed destined to unfold. What seemed like fixed fate could be transformed through the power of conscious breath applied with precision. Modern research is beginning to validate these ancient insights through rigorous scientific study. Studies on the Global Consciousness Project show that when large groups of people meditate simultaneously, random number generators around the world begin producing less random patterns, showing increased order. The coherent field states generated by conscious breathing literally organize chaos into order, not just in human consciousness, but in the physical world itself, in measurable ways. This is why environmental healing through consciousness is not just possible theoretically, it's inevitable as more people awaken. When enough people learn to breathe from coherent states, we'll begin seeing spontaneous healing in ecosystems, unexpected resolutions to seemingly intractable conflicts, and breakthrough solutions emerging from the collective field of human consciousness itself. You're not just learning a personal practice for your own benefit, you're becoming part of the solution to humanity's greatest challenges. Every breath you take from full consciousness contributes to the healing of our species and our planet as a whole. This is the true meaning of service and contribution. Not just helping individuals one by one, but participating in the elevation of consciousness itself at the collective level. The beautiful aspect of understanding your breath field is recognizing how deeply connected we all truly are beneath the surface. You're not just an isolated individual trying to improve your own life in a vacuum. You're part of a vast web of consciousness connecting everything. Every breath you take with awareness contributes to the overall field of peace and possibility on this planet, rippling out in ways you can't even measure. But this influence isn't something you need to think about or manage consciously. It happens naturally when you focus on aligning your own inner temple properly. The field responds to authenticity, not performance or pretending. When you breathe from a genuine place of presence and peace, that genuineness radiates outward without any effort on your part, without you having to do anything special. This is you've journeyed far without leaving your physical position, not across territories or distances, but across layers of yourself through rhythm, silence, observation. The most accomplished people in history mastered something you've never been taught in school: how to access infinite power through absolute stillness, through being rather than doing. In traveling through your own layers, you've discovered something the world doesn't want you knowing, something that threatens the entire system. The most powerful action is often complete non-action, pure presence. We inhabit a culture that worships activity and busyness, telling us more effort equals greater results, keeping us constantly busy, constantly striving, constantly pushing toward the next objective on our list. But the quantum field responding to your consciousness, operates by entirely different principles than what we've been taught. The field doesn't respond to your effort, intensity, or how hard you're trying. It responds to your alignment quality, to your coherence. It doesn't care about your task lists or your 5-year plans or your goals. It cares about your frequency, your coherence, your state of being in this moment. The most coherent state of all is stillness itself, not the stillness of exhaustion or giving up or surrender, but the dynamic stillness of a mountain standing strong. Consider a mountain for a moment in your mind. It appears completely still from the outside, yet it's tremendously powerful. It doesn't struggle against storms that come. It allows them to pass through. It doesn't chase sunsets, trying to catch them. It simply receives light as it comes. Rivers flow around it naturally. Seasons change upon it continuously. Yet it remains centered in its own presence, unmoved at its core. This is the kind of stillness that moves worlds and changes reality. When you learn to breathe into this mountain-like stillness, something extraordinary happens in your experience. Reality begins rearranging itself around you instead of against you, instead of in opposition. Opportunities you could never have forced begin appearing naturally in your path. People who can assist you seem to cross your path at precisely the right moment, exactly when needed. Solutions to problems you've been wrestling with suddenly become obvious, crystal clear. This isn't magic or manifestation tricks. It's physics operating at the quantum level. When you're in a state of stillness and coherence, you're no longer broadcasting the chaotic signals of desperation, control, or struggle into the field. Instead, you're emanating the clear frequency of trust, receptivity, and alignment with what is. The field responds to this clarity by organizing circumstances to match your state, bringing you what matches your frequency. Consider a hurricane's eye at its center. All around it, winds rage at hundreds of miles per hour, creating destruction. Destruction and chaos swirl in every direction outside that center. But at the very center is perfect calm, perfect stillness. From that center point, the entire storm system is organized and held together. This is the kind of stillness you can cultivate within yourself. Not the stillness of someone who has given up on life, but the stillness of someone who has learned to be their own life's organizing principle, the center around which everything else orbits. The difference between control and alignment becomes crystal clear in this stillness, obvious. Control attempts to manipulate external circumstances to match internal desires, forcing reality to bend. Alignment allows internal coherence to magnetize external harmony naturally. Control is exhausting because you're fighting against life's natural flow constantly. Alignment is effortless because you're cooperating with it, moving with it. When you breathe consciously, when you rest in the quantum gap, when you inhabit your inner temple fully, you're not trying to make things happen through force. You're allowing things to happen through you as a clear channel. You become a clear channel for the universe's intelligence to express itself in your life through your unique form. Tell me in the comments what old pattern or way of being are you ready to release through this practice right now. What transformation are you calling in for yourself? This doesn't mean becoming passive or lazy or checking out. True stillness is incredibly alive, incredibly aware and present. It's the stillness of a master archer just before releasing the arrow toward its target, completely focused, completely present, completely ready for whatever emerges. But here's what happens when you truly embody this stillness in your daily life. You begin to access what I call the zero-point field of possibility, the quantum field itself. This is a state where all potential futures exist simultaneously, waiting for consciousness to collapse them into reality through observation. In this field, there are no limitations whatsoever, no scarcity, no impossibilities, only infinite creative potential spreading out in all directions. The ancient Vedic texts called this state Turiya, the fourth state of consciousness beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. In Turiya, you're not experiencing reality as something separate from you. You're participating in its creation moment by moment. Time becomes fluid and malleable. Space becomes flexible and responsive. And what you once thought were fixed laws of physics reveal themselves to be more like guidelines that consciousness can transcend when operating from this level. When you breathe from this zero-point stillness, you're not trying to manifest specific outcomes based on what your ego wants. You're opening to the highest possibility that wants to emerge through you from the universe itself. Sometimes this looks like what you thought you wanted originally. Sometimes it looks completely different, but serves your evolution in ways you never could have imagined possible. This is the difference between ego manifestation and soul manifestation, between forcing and allowing. Ego manifestation tries to use consciousness techniques to get what it thinks it needs to be happy. Soul manifestation allows consciousness to express what it knows you need for your highest evolution and growth. The ego creates from limitation and scarcity, from not enough. The soul creates from infinite abundance and possibility, from more than enough. The most profound realization is that you don't need to become anything or achieve anything to access this zero-point field. You already are it right now. You've always been it since the beginning. The practices we've explored together, conscious breathing, observer awareness, quantum gaps, aren't about creating something new in you. They're about remembering something eternal that's always been true. Every breath you've ever taken has been the universe breathing itself through you, experiencing itself as you. Every thought you've ever had has been consciousness exploring itself through your unique perspective and lens. Every emotion you've ever felt has been love expressing itself in infinite forms and variations. You are not a separate being trying to connect with the universe outside yourself. You are the universe experiencing itself as you in this particular form. When this truth lands not just as an intellectual idea, but as a lived reality you can feel, your entire relationship with life transforms completely. You stop trying to get life to work for you and start allowing life to work through you naturally. You stop seeing yourself as a wave trying to reach the ocean and recognize yourself as the ocean, expressing itself as a wave, inseparable from the whole. This recognition doesn't make you passive or detached from life. It makes you incredibly responsive and engaged with everything. But now, your engagement comes from love rather than need, from wholeness rather than seeking something missing, from service rather than self-interest alone. You become what the Taoists call a sage, someone whose actions arise spontaneously from perfect alignment with the natural flow of existence, with the Tao itself. Right now, I want you to take a moment and comment below with this exact phrase: I choose to breathe as the observer. This isn't just a comment you're leaving. It's an energetic declaration to the field that you're ready to step into this new way of being, this new consciousness. It's a conscious interruption in the old loop of unconscious breathing that's been running your entire life. As you've journeyed through this understanding, if this material is touching something deep within you, if something inside you is stirring and waking up, then I invite you to subscribe not just to this channel, but to this frequency we're creating together. This is more than content consumption or passive watching. You're joining a movement of conscious beings who understand that reality transformation begins from within, from the inside out. You're aligning with a community that knows consciousness creates reality at the fundamental level, that awareness is the primary force shaping everything you experience. Now, as you prepare to leave this space and return to your daily life, take this rhythm with you wherever you go. You return not to who you were before watching this, but to who you've always been beneath the noise and conditioning. The breath brought you here to this moment, and now it reveals the final truth that ties everything together. Stillness is not the absence of power or weakness. Stillness is power itself in its purest form. You've journeyed through the sacred nature of breath, discovering that those 23,000 daily breaths are not mere biological functions keeping you alive, but actual opportunities for conscious creation of your reality. You've awakened the observer within, that eternal part of you that watches thoughts like clouds passing across an infinite sky, unchanging and constant. In the quantum gap between breaths, you found the sacred doorway where intention crystallizes into reality, where the invisible becomes visible. Through building your inner temple with awareness, you've learned that your body is not just flesh and bone occupying space, but a living sanctuary, storing your life stories while offering pathways to healing and transformation at every level. You've discovered that your breath creates an electromagnetic field extending 8 feet around you in all directions, making you a constant broadcaster of either peace or chaos to everyone you encounter throughout your day. And finally, you've touched the profound truth that the most powerful action is often no action at all. The dynamic stillness that allows reality to reorganize itself around your coherent presence rather than forcing it to bend to your will through struggle and effort. There will be moments when the world pulls you away from this awareness, when emotion clouds the lens of your perception, when thoughts spiral into chaos and overwhelm. In those moments, remember the shortest path home is breath, always breath. 3 conscious inhales can bring you back to the observer watching everything. 1 gap between breaths can reconnect you to the quantum field of infinite possibility. A single moment of stillness can restore your inner temple to its natural state. This isn't about achieving perfection or never losing your center. It's about returning again and again. Each time you remember to breathe consciously, you're not just improving your day or managing your stress. You're reshaping your reality from the quantum level up, from the foundation. You're becoming a living demonstration that consciousness, not circumstance, is the true creative force behind everything you experience. And here's something beautiful that happens as you continue this practice over days and weeks. You begin to notice that life starts breathing you back in return. The boundaries between your personal breath and the breath of life itself begin to dissolve and soften. You realize that every inhale is life giving itself to you as a gift, and every exhale is you giving yourself back to life in gratitude. This reciprocal breathing becomes a constant prayer, a continuous communion with the creative force of existence itself, an ongoing dialogue. In this state of reciprocal breathing, synchronicities multiply exponentially in ways that seem impossible. The right people appear at the perfect moments exactly when you need them. Opportunities align in ways that seem impossible from a logical standpoint. Solutions emerge from nowhere when you've stopped searching. Resources flow effortlessly when you release the grip of control. This isn't because you're manipulating reality through techniques or tricks. It's because you've stopped interfering with reality's natural tendency to support consciousness in its highest expression, its fullest flowering. You begin to understand that what you once called miracles are simply what happens when consciousness operates from its natural state of coherence, its home state. Healing becomes natural and spontaneous. Abundance becomes effortless and flowing. Love becomes unconditional without demands. Peace becomes unshakable regardless of external circumstances. Not because you've achieved these states through hard work, but because you've stopped blocking them with resistance and struggle. The ancient masters knew this secret intimately. They understood that the ultimate spiritual practice isn't about becoming enlightened someday in the future. It's about removing the obstacles to the enlightenment that's already here right now, already present. And breath is the master key that unlocks every door, dissolves every barrier, and reveals the infinite potential that has always been your true nature underneath everything. As you embody this understanding more fully in your daily living, you become what I call a reality anchor, someone whose very presence reminds others of their own infinite nature without saying anything. You don't need to teach or preach or convince anyone of anything through words. Your coherent field state becomes a silent invitation for others to remember their own truth, their own power. This is how consciousness evolves on the planet, not through force or effort or pushing, but through the magnetic power of authentic embodiment, of being fully who you are. The work you're doing right now isn't just personal transformation for yourself alone, it's planetary transformation at the collective level. Every moment you choose conscious breathing over unconscious reactivity, you're contributing to the collective awakening of our species as a whole. You're helping to birth a new paradigm where consciousness is recognized as the primary creative force in the universe, not an afterthought. There's a critical mass effect happening right now on our planet in this precise moment in history. As more people awaken to their true nature as conscious creators, the collective field is reaching what scientists call a phase transition, a tipping point. A point where the entire system shifts into a new organizational pattern suddenly and irreversibly. Your individual practice of conscious breathing is part of this larger evolutionary moment unfolding. You're not just healing yourself in isolation. You're participating in the healing of human consciousness itself at the species level. The indigenous wisdom keepers have always known this time would come eventually. The Hopi prophecies speak of the great purification when humanity would remember its connection to the living earth beneath our feet. The Mayan calendars pointed to this era as the end of one cosmic cycle and the beginning of another entirely new cycle. The Hindu texts describe this as the transition from Kali Yuga to Satya Yuga, from the age of darkness and forgetting to the age of truth and remembering. What all these ancient traditions understood is that this transition wouldn't happen through external force or dramatic apocalyptic events, but through the quiet revolution of individual consciousness awakening to its true nature, one person at a time. Every person who learns to breathe consciously becomes a seed of this new paradigm, helping to anchor higher frequencies of possibility into our collective reality, into the shared field. Before you go back to your day, drop one word in the comments that captures the energy you're choosing to embody moving forward from this moment. This is your energetic signature to the quantum field, a declaration of the frequency you're stepping into consciously. And if you haven't already, subscribe not just to stay connected to the channel, but to stay coherent with this understanding we are building together. The more of us who embody this truth collectively, the more the world reflects that reality back to us in miraculous ways. Consider making this practice part of your daily rhythm going forward. Perhaps watching this video each morning to anchor this frequency as you begin your day fresh. Or share this with someone who's ready for this understanding, someone you feel would benefit. When you share these quantum consciousness concepts with others, You create an energetic ripple effect that expands collective awareness while reinforcing your own embodiment of these principles simultaneously. Every share accelerates the manifestation of a more conscious world for everyone. By sharing this message, you're not just passing along information, you're spreading a frequency of awakening that will return to you multiplied through the field itself. Now, as you leave this space and return to your world, take this rhythm with you like a precious gift. Let your breath be your compass guiding you home. Let stillness be your throne from which you create. Let awareness walk with you in every word you speak, every choice you make, every pause you take. So breathe, not just to survive another day, but to remember who you truly are. Not to escape from life, but to embody it fully. Not to control outcomes, but to create from pure consciousness. The breath is the key that unlocks everything. You are the door standing between worlds. Step through into your power now. Now that you understand how breath creates your electromagnetic field and influences everything around you, you're ready to discover what the quantum field actually responds to at the deepest level. There's one specific element that determines whether your intentions manifest into physical reality or dissolve into nothing. And understanding this changes everything about how you approach creation itself, how you work with the universe. This is the missing piece that brings it all together, the element that activates everything we've discussed today. Don't miss it.